The hall was bright with lights, music, and laughter. Rich men and women in fine clothes raised their glasses, smiling as photographers took their pictures. It was a world of class and money, a world that did not welcome Sylvia. Sylvia held her small purse close and walked into the grand gala. Her heart was beating fast. She was looking for her husband, Alex Wilson. She had dressed in her best gown, though it was plain compared to the glittering dresses around her. The gown clung tightly to her large body, and her wide figure drew quick, judging stares. Sylvia was very fat, and everyone noticed. In a place where slim women were praised as elegant, Sylvia's size made her an easy target. The moment she stepped inside, whispers began. "Isn't that Alex's wife?" one woman said, covering her mouth with a laugh. "Sure is," another replied, smirking. "She looks so out of place. How can she be that fat and still show her face here?" Sylvia swallowed hard, her eyes scanning the room. She ignored the cruel words and kept walking. Then a sharp voice cut through the noise. "Well, well, look who decided to show up." It was Linda Wilson, Alex's mother. She stood tall in a gold dress, her eyes cold as ice. People around her turned to watch. "Why are you here, Sylvia?" Linda sneered loudly, making sure everyone could hear. "This is a high-class event. You don't belong here. Look at you, huge, sloppy, shameful. My son deserves better." "I don't want trouble. I'm just looking for my husband," Sylvia said quietly, trying to stay calm. Linda laughed, shaking her head. My son has outgrown you. You think a fat woman like you can keep him? You've already brought shame to him and to this family." Next to Linda stood Nora, a young, beautiful woman with shining hair and a confident smile. She leaned close to Linda and whispered, but loud enough for Sylvia to hear. She really thought she could stand beside Alex. Just look at her. No wonder he left her. She's pathetic. The guests chuckled. Their eyes pierced Sylvia's heart like knives. Sylvia's face burned with shame. She looked down at her dress, her shoes, her trembling hands. She knew her size made her stand out here, and everyone was using it against her. Still, she tried to stay strong. Her voice shook, but she forced herself to speak. "I am Alex's wife," she said. "I have every right to be here." Linda's laughter rang louder. "Wife? Not for long. My son has moved on. He has leveled up. He has a real woman now, a woman of class, of beauty, of value. Isn't that right, Nora?" Nora placed her hand on her chest and smiled sweetly. "Yes, Mrs. Wilson." The crowd clapped, as if this were entertainment. Sylvia's heart broke. She had come searching for her husband, but instead she was being crushed in front of the whole world, mocked not just for her place in Alex's life, but for her very body. Alex Wilson, her husband, stepped out from the crowd. He looked sharp in his black suit, tall and confident, as though he belonged in this glittering world far more than she ever could. "Alex," Sylvia whispered, relief rushing through her. She thought at last he would defend her. "I'm your wife. Why are they treating me like this?" But Alex's eyes were cold. His lips curled with disgust. "You are trash, Sylvia," he said flatly, "and you deserve everything you're getting. Did you really think I would stay with someone like you?" The crowd gasped, enjoying the drama. "Alex, how can you say that?" Sylvia's voice cracked. "We've been married for 3 years. 3 years too long," Alex sneered. He put his arm around Nora, pulling her close. "This is the woman I want now. Beautiful, smart, high value, not you." Nora smiled, resting her head proudly against his shoulder. Sylvia felt her knees weaken. "Please, Alex, don't do this. Don't humiliate me like this in front of everyone." Alex looked at her with a cruel smile. "Fine, I'll give you a chance. One chance to leave quietly. Walk out now before I call security." Sylvia's tears blurred the lights around her. She shook her head. "No, I am your wife. You can't just throw me away." Alex reached into his pocket and pulled out a check. He held it up for all to see. "Here, 2 million. Take it and disappear from my life forever." Gasps rippled through the hall. People whispered about the money as though this was some kind of show. Sylvia's face burned red. "So this is what 3 years of marriage means to you? Just money?" Alex shrugged. "Fine. 5 million then." He scribbled another figure and waved the check in her face. "But only if you sign the divorce papers and never step foot in my house again." "Our house," Sylvia said bitterly. "My house. Alex corrected sharply. You are nothing to me now. Nora chuckled and added, You hear that, Blimpy? Even 5 million can't cover the shame you've brought. Sylvia's fists tightened at her sides. Her whole body shook with anger and humiliation. Then Linda's voice rang out, The ring! Hand it over! Sylvia blinked. What? The emerald wedding ring, Linda said, stepping forward. That ring belonged to my family. You don't deserve it. Give it back. Sylvia clutched her hand protectively. No, it's my wedding ring. You can't take it. It's not yours anymore, Alex snapped. He grabbed her wrist and tried to pull it off. Nora joined in, yanking at Sylvia's hand. Guests gasped as the struggle turned rough. Stop! Let go! Sylvia cried, fighting them off. How dare you! You people are monsters! Her hair fell loose, her gown twisted, and her body trembled as the laughter and whispers grew louder. At last she wrenched her hand free, clutching the ring tightly. Fine, she screamed, tears streaming down her cheeks. I'll leave. But hear me well. Every single one of you will pay for what you've done to me, I swear it. With those words, Sylvia turned and stormed out of the glittering hall, leaving behind the mocking voices, the flashing cameras, and the man who had once been her world. But in her heart, a new fire had been lit, burning hotter than her shame. She walked out of the bright gala hall into the cold night. The sound of laughter and music still rang in her ears, mixing with the cruel words of Alex, Linda, and Nora. Her hands shook as she clutched her ring. Her whole body felt heavy with shame. She wandered down the quiet street, her gown dragging against the pavement. Tears blurred her sight, and her chest ached with every breath. I have nothing left, she whispered to herself. No husband, no home, nothing. 2 men leaning against a car noticed her. They smirked and nudged each other. Hey, look at this one called out. Big lady, all dressed up. Where are you going, sweetheart? Bet she's lost. Or maybe she's looking for some fun, the other sneered, stepping closer. Come on, gorgeous, don't walk away. Sylvia's heart raced. She quickened her steps, but the men followed, laughing. Don't be shy, one taunted. Pretty face like yours shouldn't be out here all alone. Leave me alone, Sylvia cried, fear rising in her voice. One man reached for her arm. Sylvia froze, trembling. But before his hand could touch her, a firm voice cut through the night. Get your hands off her. The men turned. A tall figure stepped out from the shadows. His suit was sharp, his shoulders broad, and his eyes burned with anger. It was David Jones. Mind your own business, one of the men growled. This is my business, David said calmly but firmly. Walk away, now. Something in his voice made the men hesitate. They exchanged uneasy looks, then cursed under their breath and backed off, disappearing into the night. Sylvia stood frozen, her breathing heavy. David turned to her, his expression softening. Sylvia, he said gently, is that really you? Sylvia blinked, shocked. David? David Jones? He nodded. Yes, it's me. We grew up together. I haven't seen you in years. Her knees gave way and she sank to the curb, covering her face with her hands. Oh God, David. My life is over. Everyone hates me. Alex. He threw me away like trash. They all laughed at me. They called me names. I have nothing. David crouched beside her, placing a steady hand on her shoulder. Don't say that. You're not nothing. You don't deserve what they did to you. Sylvia sobbed harder. You don't understand. I've lost my husband, my home, everything, even my dignity. David's voice was calm and strong. Then let me help you. Come with me. She looked up at him, her eyes swollen with tears. Help me? Why? You're different now. You look successful. I don't belong in your world. David gave her a small, reassuring smile. I'm still the same David who was your friend when we were kids. I won't leave you like this. Please let me take you somewhere safe. Too weak to argue, Sylvia nodded. David gently helped her to her feet and led her to a sleek black car waiting nearby. The driver opened the door and Sylvia stepped inside, still trembling. As the car pulled away, Sylvia leaned against the leather seat, her eyes closing. She was overwhelmed by her pain, by her shame, and by the unexpected kindness of the one person who had saved her. That night, she would not sleep on the streets. She was taken to David Jones's mansion, a place of wealth, power, and safety. And though she didn't yet know it, her life was about to change forever. Sylvia opened her eyes slowly. For a moment, She was confused. The ceiling above her was high and decorated with smooth white molding. The sheets were soft and smelled of lavender. Sunlight poured gently through tall glass windows. Then she remembered. David, the street, the car. She sat up quickly, her heart pounding. She was still in the gown from last night, wrinkled and stained. She had fallen asleep in another man's mansion, her childhood friend, now a powerful billionaire CEO. "What am I doing here?" she whispered to herself, panic rising. A maid knocked softly and came in carrying a tray of tea. "Good morning, Mom. Mr. Jones left early for a meeting. He asked us to make sure you were comfortable." Sylvia looked down at her hands, ashamed. "I shouldn't be here. I need to go home." The maid tilted her head gently. "Are you sure? You seem very tired." But Sylvia was already rushing. She grabbed her purse and hurried out, still feeling the sting of last night's humiliation. She thought of her home, her one safe place, and prayed it would give her comfort. But when she arrived, her chest tightened. A large moving truck was parked in front of the house. Men carried out boxes, furniture, and clothes, pieces of her life. "Stop!" Sylvia cried, running forward. "What are you doing? This is my house!" One of the movers glanced at her with pity. "Ma'am, we were told to clear everything out. Orders from the owner." "The owner?" Sylvia gasped. "I am the owner's wife." A familiar laugh answered her. "You were," said a voice. Sylvia turned. Alex and Nora walked up the driveway hand in hand, dressed perfectly, smiling as though they were on parade. "Alex," Sylvia whispered, "please, what is going on?" Alex pulled a folder from his briefcase and held it out to her. "Divorce papers. All you have to do is sign. This house belongs to me now, according to the prenup." Sylvia's throat tightened. No, you can't just throw me out like this." Nora smirked and leaned against Alex's arm. "Oh, he can, and he will. This house is going to be our new home. We're getting married soon. Isn't that wonderful?" The movers kept working, ignoring Sylvia's cries as more of her belongings were carried away. "You can't do this," Sylvia said, her voice trembling. "This is my home, my memories, my life." Alex's face hardened. "You are nothing but a big fat obstacle in my way, Sylvia. Sign the papers and get out of my sight." Tears blurred her vision. The papers shook in her hands as she looked at Alex, at Nora, at the strangers carting her world away. In that moment, the truth cut deeper than any insult. Alex had never seen her as a wife, never as a partner, only as a mistake to be erased. "With a broken heart," Sylvia signed. Nora clapped her hands with joy. "Finally. Now we can start fresh without a fat piggy like her dragging you down." Alex slipped his arm tighter around Nora. Good riddance. Sylvia stood there as the last of her things were loaded into the truck. Her body shook, not just from sadness, but from the deep, cutting humiliation of being mocked, rejected, and discarded in front of them. In a single morning, she had lost her marriage, her home, and everything she owned. And Alex and Nora laughed, watching her fall apart. Sylvia walked down the street with her arms wrapped tightly around herself. The moving truck carrying her life had already vanished. Behind her, Alex and Nora were laughing, their voices echoing in her ears. She had nothing left, no home, no family, no belongings. Her steps were slow, her dress dragging against the pavement. People passing by gave her quick, judgmental looks. Sylvia pulled her shawl tighter, wishing she could disappear. As she wandered aimlessly, her mind returned to the night before, to David Jones, the man who had saved her from those men in the street. He had looked at her with kindness, not disgust. He had made her feel safe, even for a moment. "Why would someone like him care about someone like me?" she whispered bitterly. Suddenly, a familiar car pulled up beside her. The window rolled down and David leaned out. "Sylvia," he said softly, "what are you doing out here? You look exhausted." Her eyes filled with tears. "I don't have anywhere to go. They took everything." David stepped out of the car and placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Then come with me. Stay at my house, for as long as you want." Sylvia shook her head. "No, I'll only be a burden. Look at me, David. I'm not like the women you know. I'm fat. I'm ugly." Alex was right. "I'm a disgrace." David's expression hardened. "Don't say that. You are not ugly. Your body is not a shame. Don't let his cruelty define you." Sylvia looked away, her voice breaking. "But it's true. He said it so many times. He made me believe it. Then let me be the one to make you believe the opposite," David said firmly. You deserve respect, Sylvia. You deserve kindness. Her lip trembled. For the first time in days, she felt the sting of hope, but also fear. That night, David brought Sylvia back to his mansion again. He offered her a warm room, clean clothes, and a table filled with food. Sylvia sat before the plates, staring at them with empty eyes. Then, almost without realizing, she began to eat. Bite after bite, her sadness turned into hunger, her hunger into despair. She stuffed bread into her mouth, swallowed quickly, reached for more. David watched quietly. Sylvia's hands shook as she grabbed another plate. Alex was right, she whispered between mouthfuls. I eat too much. I'm nothing but a fat cow, that's why he left me. Stop. David's voice was steady but strong. Don't repeat his words. He was cruel, not honest. You are more than the number on a scale. Sylvia's tears fell onto her plate, but she kept eating until she was too full to move. David sighed and knelt beside her chair. You are hurting, but you're not alone anymore, Sylvia. Not as long as I'm here. For the first time, Sylvia allowed herself to believe him. Just a little. The next morning, David walked into Sylvia's room holding a small, worn booklet. This belonged to my late mother, he explained. She struggled with her weight when she was young. A friend gave her this, an old guide on diet therapy. Not dieting like people do today, just eating real, simple food and taking care of herself. Sylvia took the booklet in her hands. The pages were yellowed, the corners bent. Did it help her? David smiled softly. Yes, but not just with her body, with her confidence. She felt stronger, healthier, happier. Sylvia touched the cover, uncertain. Do you think it could help me? David sat beside her. Only if you want it. I'll never force you. But I believe you can change, not because Alex wants you to, but because you deserve to feel good about yourself. Sylvia stared at him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. I'll try. That afternoon, Sylvia attempted her first instant fix. She followed the booklet too quickly, skipping steps, eating strange combinations, even trying to exercise all at once. She bent over, clutching her stomach. Oh my God, David, did I lose any weight yet? David chuckled. It doesn't work in one day, Sylvia. What about now? She asked, stepping onto the scale and frowning. David laughed again, shaking his head. No, not yet. Sylvia groaned and flopped onto the couch. This is hopeless. But David looked at her with patient eyes. No, this is just the beginning. If you're serious, I'll help you every step of the way. For the first time in a long time, Sylvia smiled, a small, uncertain smile, but real. I'll commit, she whispered. I'll really try. David nodded. Then this is the start of something new. Days turned into weeks. Sylvia kept the promise she made to David. She woke early. She followed the old booklet's simple rules. She ate whole foods. She walked every morning in the garden behind David's house. At first the steps were slow and painful. Her body protested. Her heart felt heavy with shame. David sat with her. He cooked simple meals and showed her how to choose food that made her feel full and calm. He never shouted or gave harsh orders. He taught her to measure progress by how she felt, not just by a number on a scale. Some days, Sylvia would do everything right. She would wake, walk, eat slowly, laugh with David, and sleep early. Other days, she would break down and eat too much. She would cry and call herself names she had heard from Alex. David only held her hand and said, Tomorrow is new. The small wins came quietly. Her clothes felt a little looser. She could climb the short hill behind the house without stopping. She laughed without hiding it once. A neighbor complimented her voice on the phone. Each small thing gave her a little strength. Sylvia kept a diary. She wrote how she felt. She wrote the small victories and the hard days. David read some entries with her and praised her effort. You are brave, he would say. You are changing. One evening after a month, Sylvia looked in the mirror. She saw a softer face. Her shoulders sat lower. Her breath felt easier. She told David about the night she first met Alex. How at first he had been kind and proud to be with her. How she believed in him and worked to support his dreams. She had helped him in small ways. She had listened. She had given him courage. She had been loyal. And then one day, Sylvia said, her voice thin with memory, he changed. He forgot me. He forgot all the nights I stayed up worried about his work, helping him solve major crises behind the scenes. He used me like a stepping stone. He wanted to climb. When he reached the top, he pushed me away. And he did it because of my size. Because I was fat. David listened, his face soft. People who use others forget how to be human, he said. They choose what looks good for them, not what is real. Sylvia felt the old anger flare again. It burned hot and clean. She had been ashamed for so long. Now the shame turned into something else. It turned into a plan. Time passed. Sylvia's steady routine began to show real change. Her face slimmed. Her arms looked firmer. Her voice grew steady and sure. She walked with more confidence. David bought her some new clothes that fit her new shape. They were simple and elegant. They made her stand straighter. One morning, after a long walk, Sylvia stopped and looked at David. "I want him to see me again," she said quietly. "But not the woman he called names. I want him to see someone he will fall for. Someone beautiful, strong, and impossible to ignore." David's eyes narrowed with careful thought. "You mean revenge?" he asked. Sylvia breathed out slowly. "Not violence, not cruelty. I want him to feel the pain of losing me. I want him to know what it is to be betrayed and used. He will not just lose his wife. He will lose his pride, his public image, his power. He will watch me become what he once dreamed of, and he will learn what he did to me." David did not smile. He did not add details. He only nodded. "If you choose this path, I will help you plan it. But remember why we started. Do this for yourself first." Sylvia's hands were steady now. The fire inside her was not just anger. It was resolve. She had changed for herself. Now she would use that change as a tool. She would make Alex fall in love with the new Sylvia, then take everything he had, piece by piece. She practiced her voice in the mirror. She learned to control her laughter, her walk, her smile. She trained in small social moves that made people listen. She learned how to enter a room so eyes would turn. She did it not to prove to others, but to prove to herself that she could be seen as whole and worthy. The plan was simple. Become irresistible again, but by choice and strength, not by changing who she was inside. Make Alex want her back, then remove him from what he cared about most, his power, his money, and his reputation. The days of eating in secret and hiding were ending. The days of quiet training and steady rebuilding were shaping Sylvia into someone new. She had one clear purpose now, to reclaim herself, and to make sure Alex and those who hurt her learned the cost of their cruelty. 2 days later, Sylvia stood before the mirror in her new wardrobe. Her body was slimmer now, her shoulders straighter, and her voice carried a new confidence. She almost didn't recognize the woman looking back. David entered the room, carrying a calm smile. "You're ready," he said. "But if you're going to face Alex again, you'll need a cover. You can't go back as Sylvia. He'd never let you near him." Sylvia turned from the mirror, her eyes steady. "So who do I become?" David thought for a moment. "You'll be Mirabelle Jones, my sister, educated abroad, recently returned. That way no one will question your place by my side." The name rolled off her tongue. "Mirabelle Jones." She gave a small smile. "It feels like someone strong." David nodded. "Exactly, and that's who you are now." A week later, the grand ballroom was alive with light and chatter. It was another gala, this one filled with the city's richest and most powerful. Mirabelle stepped into the room beside David, her new identity firmly in place. Heads turned as she passed. Whispers followed her, but this time they were not mocking. Across the hall, Alex Wilson noticed her instantly. His eyes widened, his glass paused mid-air. The woman was striking, confident, elegant, unlike anyone else in the room. He leaned toward Nora, who was clinging to his arm. "Who is that?" Nora frowned. "I don't know, but she looks expensive." Alex's gaze lingered. Something about her felt familiar, yet he couldn't place it. Later that night, Mirabelle made her move. She walked past Alex, holding a glass of red wine. With a carefully timed step, she stumbled slightly and let the wine spill across his crisp white shirt. "Oh," she gasped, pressing a hand to her lips. "I'm so sorry." Alex stiffened, looking down at the stain. "What the—" Before he could finish, Mirabelle pulled a neatly folded shirt from her bag. "Here, please. I always carry an extra for my brother, and I thought you might need one. Let me help you." Alex hesitated, then allowed her to guide him aside. She slipped him the clean shirt, her fingers brushing his hand. Her smile was soft, her voice playful. "I hope this makes up for my clumsiness." Alex chuckled, loosening his tie. "You're full of surprises. And who might you be?" "Mirabelle Jones," she said smoothly. "David Jones is my brother." Recognition flickered in Alex's eyes. Of course, David Jones, the powerful billionaire CEO. That explained her poise, her confidence, her access. Mirabelle leaned closer, her tone low and teasing. "And since I owe you for the wine, maybe I can work for you. I hear you're in need of a new assistant." Alex raised his eyebrows, intrigued. "Is that so? Word do travel fast? And when could you start?" She gave him a sly smile. "Monday morning, 9 o'clock sharp." Alex studied her, drawn in by her presence. "I'll hold you to that." As he walked away with the clean shirt in hand, Mirabelle tucked the stained one into her purse. She smiled to herself. Not only had she set the tone, but she had also kept a piece of evidence, something she could use later if needed. The game had begun. That night, after the gala, Alex returned home with Nora. He slipped into the bedroom quietly, hoping to avoid her sharp eyes. But as he undressed, Nora noticed something on his back. She narrowed her eyes. "Alex? What's that?" Alex froze. "What's what?" "Those scratch marks." Nora pointed, her voice cold. "On your back. Don't tell me you got those at a business gala." Alex quickly pulled his shirt back on. "A waiter spilled wine on me. I had to change. It was chaos, that's all." Nora folded her arms, glaring. "Do I look stupid to you? Who gave you that new shirt?" Alex forced a laugh. "Just a replacement. Nothing important." But Nora wasn't convinced. Her lips pressed into a thin line. "Fine. If that's how you want to play it, then sleep on the couch tonight. I don't want you in my bed." Alex sighed, defeated, and walked out with a pillow in hand. The couch felt harder than stone, but he knew better than to argue with Nora when her temper burned. Monday morning came quickly. The glass towers of Apex, Alex's company, gleamed under the rising sun. Employees bustled through the revolving doors, their heels clicking against marble floors. At exactly 9 o'clock, Mirabelle Jones walked in. Her slim figure, elegant dress, and calm confidence turned heads instantly. She carried herself with poise, her heels tapping lightly as if she had walked those halls 100 times before. Yet inside, her heart beat fast. This was the start of her plan. Alex was already in his office when she entered. For a brief moment he forgot to breathe. She looked even more stunning in the morning light. "Good morning," Mirabelle said smoothly, setting a folder on his desk. "Here are your memos for the week, already organized. I've also arranged your meetings and blocked time for the board review on Thursday." Alex blinked. "Already? You've only just arrived." Mirabelle smiled politely. "That's what assistants are for." A knock at the door interrupted them. Mark Stevens, the vice president of Apex, walked in with a broad smile. "Alex, congratulations," Mark said warmly. "I heard about your new hire, and I must say you've chosen well." He turned to Mirabelle, shaking her hand firmly. "Welcome aboard. I'm Mark. We'll be working closely." Mirabelle's handshake was steady, her smile confident. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Mr. Stevens. I'm ready to give my best." Mark looked back at Alex with approval. "She's already making an impression. You've struck gold this time." Alex glanced at Mirabelle, his intrigue deepening. She wasn't just beautiful, she was competent, composed, and impossible to ignore. And just like that, day one at Apex had begun. The day at the office ended with praise all around. Mirabelle's first day had been flawless, schedules neatly arranged, memos sent out, and even Mark Stevens had been impressed. Alex leaned back in his chair, watching her leave the office with an admiring smile. Outside, Mirabelle walked toward her car. She slipped the key in, turned it, and frowned. Nothing. She tried again. Still nothing. She sighed loudly, pretending to be frustrated, though her eyes glimmered with quiet satisfaction. This was part of her plan. Just as she expected, Alex appeared. "Car trouble?" he asked, slipping his hands into his pockets. Mirabelle looked up, her face embarrassed, but soft. "It won't start. I don't know what's wrong." "Don't worry about it," Alex said smoothly. "I'll give you a ride home." The drive was quiet at first, the city lights flickering past. Alex stole glances at her, admiring the calm way she sat, the faint smile on her lips. When they reached David's mansion, the front lights were on. David was already at the door. His eyes narrowed slightly when he saw Alex's car pull in. "Thank you for the ride," Mirabelle said sweetly, touching Alex's arm lightly as she got out. "No problem at all," Alex replied, his gaze lingering. David stepped forward, forcing a polite smile. "Alex Wilson. Didn't expect to see you here. Just helping your sister," Alex said casually. The two men shook hands, the gesture stiff. The air between them was thick with tension. David's jaw tightened as he noticed how Alex's eyes followed Mirabelle. "Well," David said firmly, "thanks for bringing her home. We'll take it from here." Alex nodded, but not before giving Mirabelle one last look. "See you tomorrow, Mirabelle," she smiled faintly. "Good night, Alex." Later, in her room, Mirabelle sat at her desk, her mind turning. She thought about Alex and about the past. The city garden project flashed in her memory, the tender proposal she had once drawn up. She had worked for weeks on it, pouring in her heart and vision. But Alex had dismissed her, calling her a disgrace, saying no one would take ideas from a fat woman. He had stolen her work and erased her from the credit. Her jaw tightened. "He'll regret that," she whispered. She remembered Nora too, the woman who had mocked her body, laughed in her face, and stolen her husband. Sylvia's heart still ached with the memory. But now she smiled coldly. She will know how it feels to be cheated on. The plan was simple. Nora's jealousy was sharp, always ready to explode. All it would take was the right spark. The next night, after everyone left Apex, Mirabelle stayed behind in the office. She waited until the building was quiet. Then she picked up the office phone and dialed Nora's number. The call connected. "Hello?" Nora's voice snapped through the line. Sylvia lowered her tone, making it smooth and deliberate. "I just wanted to let you know. Mr. Wilson may be coming home late tonight. We're working on something important." She let the silence hang before gently placing the phone back on the receiver. A slow smile spread across her face. "Let the fire begin." Somewhere across the city, Nora's hand tightened around the phone. Fury lit her eyes. Without waiting, she grabbed her coat and stormed out of the house. The trap was set. Sylvia still perfect in her role as Mirabelle knew the call had done its work. Nora would come storming in. She only had to make sure the scene was set. Soon, she walked quietly into Alex's office carrying a steaming bowl of goat meat pepper soup and a chilled bottle of champagne. The rich, spicy aroma filled the air. Alex looked up, surprised. "What's this?" "Dinner," Sylvia, in her disguise as Mirabelle, said smoothly, placing the tray on his desk. "I thought you might need something to keep you going. You've been working hard." Alex leaned forward, inhaling deeply. His eyes lit up. "Goat pepper soup, my favorite. And champagne? How did you know?" Mirabelle gave a soft, knowing smile. "I'm good at noticing people. And I like to take an interest in attractive things." Alex blinked, caught off guard by her words. His face warmed slightly. He blushed. They sat together, the light dim in the office. Alex ate with satisfaction, talking more freely than usual. Sylvia listened, laughing at the right moments, leaning just close enough to make him feel drawn to her. The trap was working. Then the door burst open. Nora. Her eyes burned as she saw them together. Alex jumped to his feet, nearly spilling the soup. Mirabelle calmly rose, smoothed her dress, and slipped out of the office without a word. But her lips curved into a victorious smile as she walked down the hallway. "Inside," Nora exploded. "You filthy liar!" she shouted, shoving Alex's chair. "So this is why you've been coming home late? It's not what you think." Alex tried, but Nora's rage drowned him out. She slapped the wine bottle off the table. It shattered on the floor, spraying champagne across the carpet. "You humiliated me, Alex! After everything I gave you!" The shouting turned violent. Nora clawed at his shirt. Alex pushed her back, but in the struggle, her nails slashed across his face. "Ah!" Alex cried out, clutching his eye. Blood trickled down his cheek. "Good," Nora spat, breathing hard. "Now wear that scar as a reminder. If you think you can treat me the same way you did with that fat bitch, then you are wrong." She stormed out, slamming the door so hard the glass rattled. The next morning, Alex walked into the office wearing dark sunglasses. Whispers followed him through the hallway.
Mark raised his brows but said nothing. David, who was leaving after dropping off Sylvia, noticed immediately. His eyes narrowed as Alex stepped into his office, and he caught Sylvia hovering nearby. "What happened?" David asked coolly. "Nothing," Alex muttered. But David's tone sharpened. "Nothing doesn't leave a man with an eye hidden behind sunglasses." Alex turned to Mirabelle. "Bring me some ice, please." She nodded, forcing calm, though inside she was smiling. David crossed his arms. "Mirabelle, stay with him. Make sure he's taken care of." His jaw clenched as he spoke, but he said no more. Later that day, Alex gathered his key people in the conference room. "The City Garden Project tender proposal," he announced. "This is worth billions. We need to get it right." He handed out documents, one to Mark Stevens and one to Mirabelle Jones. "These are the exact numbers," Alex said firmly. "Memorize them. This project will secure our future." Mirabelle took the folder with steady hands, her heart pounding. She had drawn up this plan once before when she was Sylvia, before he discarded her. Now she held the very document she had created, stolen from her, and hidden away because of her size. She smiled faintly. The game was turning. The City Garden project loomed closer, and tension filled Apex offices. Every detail mattered, every number counted. Alex grew more restless by the day, pacing his office, snapping at staff. Mirabelle, however, stayed calm. She already had her plan. The switch. It was 2 days before the final proposal submission. After a long team lunch, everyone left the conference room, leaving papers and cups scattered on the table. "Don't worry, I'll tidy up," Mirabelle said smoothly, stacking files into neat piles. Alex smiled gratefully, not noticing the way her eyes flickered toward the City Garden tender folder lying at the corner. The moment the door closed, Mirabelle's hands moved quickly. She slipped the folder into her bag, then replaced it with a copy she had prepared earlier. Her pulse raced, but her face stayed calm. Just as she zipped her bag, the door slammed open. "Nora, what are you doing here?" Nora demanded, her eyes sharp. "Cleaning up," Mirabelle said lightly, holding the copy folder in her hands. Nora's gaze darted to the table, suspicion rising. "Don't play games with me. I know women like you, a gold digger who wants to snatch my man." The tension thickened until Alex himself appeared with 2 security guards. He froze, seeing them face to face. "What's going on here?" he asked sharply. Nora began, pointing at Mirabelle. But Alex cut her off. "Enough, Nora. You've been disruptive enough already. We have a very important bid coming up." Her jaw dropped. "You're defending her? Over me?" "Security," Alex said coldly. "Escort her out. Don't take this personal, Nora. We need to concentrate." The guards moved quickly. Nora struggled, shouting, but Alex didn't flinch. Mirabelle stood quietly at the side, eyes lowered, hiding the faint smile that played on her lips. The following week, the results came in. Apex had lost the City Garden project by just $1,000 out of $10 million. It was too exact, too clean, proof that the rival company had known Apex's bottom line. Alex slammed the report on his desk. "There's a leak," he growled. "Someone fed them our numbers." Whispers spread through the office. Mirabelle stood nearby, her face carefully arranged in guilt. "Mr. Wilson," she said softly, lowering her eyes, "I need to confess something." Alex froze. "Go on." That day, Nora barged into the conference room. "I misplaced the proposal folder. I thought I put it back, but maybe—" She hesitated, glancing up at him with shame. Maybe she took it. Alex's eyes darkened. The thought of Nora betraying him gnawed at his chest. But later that night, something pushed his suspicion deeper. It was all too perfect, too targeted. Maybe Mirabelle was involved. He stormed into Mirabelle's office after hours. He began pulling open drawers, yanking files from shelves. And there, tucked beneath a stack of folders, was the original City Garden tender, exactly where it shouldn't have been. Alex's hands shook as he pulled it out. The next morning, he confronted Mirabelle. His face was stone, his injured eye still hidden behind dark glasses. "Explain this," he demanded, slamming the folder onto her desk. Mirabelle looked up, her eyes wide with practiced innocence. I don't know how that got there." But Alex's voice was low, dangerous. "Don't lie to me. Were you playing me all along?" The trap had worked, but perhaps too well. Alex's eyes burned as he slammed the tender folder down. "You lied to me, Mirabelle. You betrayed me." Sylvia's heart raced, but her face stayed calm. She knew the moment had come.
If she panicked now, everything would collapse. She needed to act fast. She lowered her gaze and whispered, "Maybe it's better if I resign." The words caught Alex off guard. "Resign?" "Yes," she sighed, her voice trembling just enough to sound real. "I never wanted to hurt you, Alex. But being close to you, it's complicated."
"I tried to hide it, but I've had a crush on you since the very first day." Alex blinked, stunned. "What are you saying?" Sylvia swallowed hard, letting her voice soften. "That's why I asked David to let me work here. I didn't want to work in the Jones Group. I wanted to be close to you. Working here at Apex was the only way I could be near you without anyone asking questions. I didn't mean for it to go this far. Please, don't be angry." Alex's anger faltered. His breath slowed, his expression softening as her words sank in. "So all this time," he murmured, "it wasn't about work. It was about me." Sylvia let a tear glisten in her eye. "Yes, but I never wanted to come between you and Nora. The night she barged into your office, I swear she must have taken the folder. You know her jealousy. You know what she's capable of." Alex pressed his palms against the desk, struggling with the truth. Slowly his shoulders sank. "You're right," he said bitterly. "She's been nothing but chaos." He moved closer, his voice gentler now. "Mirabelle, listen to me. You don't have to resign. Your job is safe. More than that," he paused, his voice dropping lower. "I can't deny it anymore. I have feelings for you too." Sylvia's breath caught, but she kept her control. She let the silence linger before stepping back slightly. "No," she said firmly. "Not while you're married. Not while you still belong to her." Alex reached for her hand, but she pulled it away. "I won't be another woman in the shadows, Alex. If you really mean what you say, leave Nora. Only then can we begin." Alex's jaw tightened with resolve. "Then I'll do it. I'll leave her. Tonight. Come with me while I pack. I want you to see that I'm serious." Sylvia nodded softly, though inside her heart pounded with triumph. The wall between Alex and Nora was finally crumbling, and she was the one holding the hammer. That night, Alex pulled up to his mansion with Sylvia quietly by his side. Her heart thudded against her ribs, but her face remained calm. This was it, the moment she had been planning for. Inside, Nora was already waiting. She stood in the living room in a silk robe, her face twisted with fury. "So it's true. I didn't want to believe it when you called early, but I think it's clear now," she snapped, her voice trembling with rage. "You're leaving me, just like that?" Alex dropped his keys on the counter. "Nora, it's over. I can't live like this anymore." Nora laughed harshly. "Over? Don't be ridiculous. You were in my bed just this afternoon, Alex. We had sex right there." She pointed dramatically toward the staircase. Sylvia's lips curled into a small, knowing smile. "A cheat will always be a cheat," she said softly, her words sliding like a dagger. "After all, wasn't someone else's husband once snatched too?" But Nora missed the deeper meaning. She raised her chin proudly, using her bluff as a shield. "You're nothing but a gold-digging tramp," she spat at Sylvia. Sylvia stayed calm, refusing to rise to the bait. She stepped toward Alex, holding out a neatly folded shirt. "Here," she said gently, ignoring Nora's theatrics. "Wear this instead of the mess she left you in." Alex accepted the shirt without hesitation. He didn't even glance at Nora. That hurt her more than any insult could. "Come on," Alex said firmly to Sylvia. "We're leaving." As they walked out, Nora's voice cracked with venom. "This isn't over, Alex. I'll make sure both of you regret this." The door slammed behind them. The next morning, Nora stormed into Linda Wilson's grand sitting room. She flung herself onto the couch, her face red with anger. "Linda, you have to listen to me," she pleaded. "That girl, Mirabelle, she's a gold digger. She's trying to ruin Alex. You must make him fire her before she destroys your family." Linda pursed her lips, tapping her manicured fingers against the armrest. "A gold digger?" she repeated slowly. "That's a very serious claim." Moments later, Mirabelle was summoned. She entered with quiet poise, her elegant dress flowing around her, her head held high. Linda's eyes widened slightly. Mirabelle exuded wealth and grace, nothing like the desperate woman Nora had painted. David's voice cut smoothly through the tension. "Mirabelle is my sister," he said calmly. "She comes from the Jones family. I don't think you're aware just how respected her name is." Mirabelle smiled faintly,
and inclined her head. It's true, Mrs. Wilson. My family has always believed in integrity, not chasing titles or riches. Linda studied her carefully, then leaned back with a sigh. Compared to Nora's frantic accusations, Mirabelle's calm elegance was disarming, and she had indeed heard so much about prestigious David Jones, so his sister must be as highly placed as well. Well, Linda said at last, her tone softening, it seems I misjudged you. You are nothing like the women who hang around my son for his money. You clearly have more than enough of your own. She reached for Mirabelle's hand and squeezed it warmly. Forgive me, dear. Sylvia lowered her eyes modestly, hiding the flash of triumph in them. The same Linda who had once called her a fat disgrace was now siding with her without the faintest idea who she truly was. Her revenge was only just beginning. Linda's change of heart was swift. With a warm smile, she leaned toward Mirabelle and David. You must both join us for lunch tomorrow. It will do the family good to spend more time together. Sylvia lowered her eyes modestly. That would be an honor, Mrs. Wilson. Please, dear, Linda said quickly, patting her hand. Call me Linda. Sylvia's heart surged. Step 1 had worked. The following day, the Wilson dining room glittered with polished silverware and tall candles. The long mahogany table was set for a feast. Linda sat at the head, Alex at her right, and Mirabelle beside him, with David across from her. Such a beautiful family gathering, Linda said, raising her glass. It feels like the start of something wonderful. Mirabelle smiled faintly. Yes, it does. As the meal progressed, the talk shifted from pleasantries to business. Linda leaned forward, curiosity in her eyes. So, David, she said, tell me, what's keeping you so busy these days? I hear your ventures are multiplying. David dabbed his lips with a napkin before speaking, his tone calm but calculated. Well, there's something confidential, he said, lowering his voice as though letting them in on a secret. A few insiders know about it, but it hasn't hit the market yet. Brightech, you've heard of them? Of course, Alex said quickly. Everyone has. A giant. Exactly, David continued. Well, Brightech is heavily backing a smaller company, Novatech. Word is Novatech is preparing to unveil a breakthrough in artificial intelligence. A new algorithm that could change the entire tech landscape. Mirabelle kept her expression neutral, sipping her wine, though her chest fluttered with satisfaction. David leaned closer. When the announcement hits, billions will be made by those who invested early. But as I said, he glanced meaningfully between Linda and Alex. Very few know about it. Very few. Linda's eyes widened. And you're telling us? David gave a slight shrug. Well, family deserves to be in the circle. But you must promise me secrecy. Not a word outside this room. Of course, Linda said eagerly. We would never. Alex straightened in his chair, his eyes shining with ambition. If what you're saying is true, this could double our wealth overnight. Exactly, David replied smoothly. That's why it's critical to act quietly and quickly. Linda reached for Sylvia's hand again, excitement bubbling in her voice. Thank you for trusting us with this. You are truly a blessing, Mirabelle, truly. Sylvia smiled sweetly, but behind her calm eyes, Sylvia's plan tightened like a noose. The seeds were planted. Linda and Alex had swallowed the bait whole. That very night, Linda could not contain her excitement. She moved fast, calling her private banker and pushing through an investment of a few $1 million into Novatech. By morning, her risk seemed to pay off. Novatech's stock price shot up by 200%. Linda's laughter rang through the Wilson mansion. David was right, she exclaimed, waving the numbers in Alex's face. We are about to become even richer. Alex's eyes gleamed with pride. This is just the beginning. Over the next few days, Alex moved aggressively. At the Apex headquarters, he summoned Mark, the vice president, into his office. Mark, Alex ordered firmly, take every last company cash reserve and put it into Novatech. Every penny. I want us to hold more than anyone else on the market. Mark hesitated. But sir, that's incredibly risky. I don't want excuses, Alex snapped. This deal cements my place as CEO for life. When the profits hit, no board member will ever dare question me again. Yes, sir, Mark said reluctantly, scribbling notes. Meanwhile, Linda followed suit, investing her entire life savings. She smiled with the giddiness of a gambler convinced her winning streak would never end. That evening, Alex poured champagne into 2 tall glasses. He raised one toward Mirabelle, who sat gracefully on the couch across from him. "You're my lucky charm," he told her with a grin. "I should have met you sooner. With you by my side." "The sky is the limit." Sylvia lifted her glass, her lips curling into the faintest smile. He had no idea. Days later, the Apex annual party dazzled with glittering chandeliers, and the city's wealthiest elite in their finest gowns and suits. The hall buzzed with music, chatter, and clinking glasses. Alex stepped onto the stage, pulling Mirabelle beside him. Cameras flashed instantly. "Ladies and gentlemen," Alex announced proudly, "this year has been the most successful in Apex's history, and it's all thanks to the people closest to me." He turned, gazing at Mirabelle with a lovesick grin. "And tonight, I want to make it official." Gasps echoed across the room as Alex dropped to one knee, pulling out a diamond ring. "Mirabelle Jones," he said loudly, "will you marry me?" The crowd erupted with cheers, but the celebration was shattered in seconds. From the back of the hall, Nora stormed forward, her face red with fury. "Are you out of your mind, Alex?" she screamed. "You're being played by a gold digger!" The room fell silent. Guests whispered and craned their necks. Sylvia did not flinch. She turned to the crowd, her voice calm, yet cutting. "A gold digger," she said. "That's rich coming from you, Nora. Should I tell them about the last 3 years? About how you spread your legs for Alex while he fat-shamed his own wife? How he mocked her as a fat cow while sneaking into your bed?" Gasps rippled through the hall. Alex's face paled, his eyes darting to his mother, to the board members, to the investors watching wide-eyed. Sylvia's voice grew sharper. "Yes, everyone. For 3 years, Alex cheated on his wife, calling her disgusting, unworthy, a disgrace, just because of her size, and now he thinks parading me here will erase that." The crowd buzzed in shock. Nora's hands trembled, her eyes darting wildly as whispers swarmed around her like angry bees. Alex froze, the diamond ring still clutched in his hand. And Sylvia smiled, her revenge unfolding exactly as she had planned. The ballroom was buzzing, whispers slicing through the air like knives. Nora stood trembling, Alex still frozen on one knee, and Sylvia still acting as Mirabelle Jones, calm, poised, and beautiful, stood at the center of it all. Linda's heels clicked sharply against the polished floor as she strode forward. Her eyes darted from Nora to Mirabelle, and without hesitation she reached for Nora's hand. "Give me that," she snapped, tugging the emerald family ring from Nora's finger. Nora gasped in shock, but Linda ignored her, turning quickly to Mirabelle. "My dear," Linda said with sudden sweetness, pressing the ring into Sylvia's hand. "Please, accept my son's proposal. Forget that. That fat disgrace from the past. She brought nothing but shame to our family." Gasps echoed across the hall. Guests exchanged looks. The scene was painfully familiar. Months ago, Sylvia had been humiliated and stripped of her dignity. Now the roles were reversed, and the crowd could feel the irony hanging heavy in the air. Linda clasped Mirabelle's hands tightly. The Wilsons and the Jones united. That is the future. That is strength. Alex scrambled to recover, his voice shaky but loud enough for the guests to hear. "Everyone, listen. I never loved Sylvia. She was never worthy of me. Not like Mirabelle Jones here. She is everything I—" "Stop." The single word from Sylvia sliced through his sentence like a blade. Her voice was steady, but her eyes burned with unshakable fire. She stepped back from Alex's kneeling figure and faced the crowd. "I am not Mirabelle Jones," she declared. "I am Sylvia Wilson. Or should I say, I was Sylvia Wilson." A stunned silence dropped over the ballroom. Forks clinked against plates. A glass slipped from someone's hand and shattered on the floor. Linda staggered back a step, her hand flying to her chest. "What did you say?" Sylvia's voice rose, clear and unrelenting. "Yes, Sylvia Wilson, the wife you all mocked, the fat woman you all called disgusting, the same woman you threw out like garbage after I sacrificed everything to help Alex build his empire." She turned sharply toward Linda. "And now? Now you suddenly want me back in the family? As if your son is some prize, swapping women whenever he's bored?" Linda's face drained of color. Alex sat frozen in complete motionlessness, and Nora erupted with a scream. "You lying cow! You'll always be the fat pig who disgusted everyone. You think anyone here will ever respect you?" Sylvia took a slow step forward. Her eyes locked on Nora's twisted face. Her voice was steady, almost calm. "How does it feel?" she asked, her lips curling into a sharp smile. To finally get a taste of your own medicine. The hall buzzed louder, the weight of Sylvia's words settling on every stunned guest. For once it wasn't her who stood humiliated under the lights. It was them. The room was still buzzing with gasps and whispers when Alex tried to find his words. He stood frozen, the ring box trembling in his hand, his eyes darting helplessly between Sylvia, his mother, and the stunned guests. Just then, his phone buzzed violently in his pocket. He pulled it out, his face draining of color as he answered. "What?" he barked into the phone. On the other end, a panicked voice shouted, "Sir, Novatech has collapsed. The stock is down to pennies, everything's gone." Alex staggered back a step, his knees nearly giving way. No, that's impossible." Linda's phone chimed next. She fumbled to answer, her hand shaking. "Hello? What do you mean wiped out? My entire account?" Her voice cracked into a wail. "No, that was my life savings." The crowd erupted in shocked murmurs. Before Alex could recover, Mark, the Apex vice president, rushed into the hall, his face pale. "Mr. Wilson, I'm sorry, but the company's reserves, all of it, gone. We're insolvent. The board is already meeting. They want you out immediately." Gasps and camera flashes lit the ballroom as investors, reporters, and guests whispered fiercely among themselves. Alex's face twisted, his voice breaking into a shout. "This is sabotage! Someone set me up!" David Jones stepped forward calmly from the edge of the room. His tall frame and steady eyes commanded silence. "No, Alex, this was greed. You gambled everything and now your empire has collapsed. Misappropriating company funds. The board will press criminal charges. You've destroyed yourself." Alex's eyes flared with desperation. "If you think I'll just—" David cut him off with a raised hand, his voice firm and cold. "Don't. Any move you make now will only make your fate worse." He stepped closer, his gaze unwavering. "You never valued what you had, Alex. Not your wife, not your company, not even your family. And now, you've lost it all." David placed a protective hand on Sylvia's shoulder, guiding her away from the crowd. Cameras flashed furiously, but she held her head high, unbothered by the noise. As they walked toward the exit, the last thing Sylvia heard was Linda's anguished sobs and Alex's broken cry echoing through the grand hall. The next morning, the headlines spread like wildfire. Apex Group collapses. CEO Alex Wilson arrested for fraud. Cameras swarmed the courthouse as Alex, once arrogant and untouchable, was led away in handcuffs. His sunglasses couldn't hide the fear in his eyes. Inside the holding cell, the door clanged open. Nora walked in, dressed sharply, holding a file of divorce papers. She dropped them on the table with a thud. "You're finished, Alex," she hissed. "Sign these, I'll take everything you have left." Alex let out a hollow laugh. "Everything?" "There is nothing, Nora. Not a single dime. I didn't just use the company's money. I poured all my personal fortune into Novatech, too. My savings, my investments, all gone." Nora's eyes widened in disbelief. "You fool. You absolute fool." She snatched the papers back and stormed out, her heels echoing with fury. The next day, Linda showed up at the detention center, Nora by her side. For once, they were united, but not in loyalty. "This is your fault," Linda screamed, slamming her palm on the table. "You dragged my name into the mud. You pushed me, mother," Alex shouted back. "You never cared about me. You never liked Sylvia. You only about appearances. You wanted power through me, and now look at us." Nora cut in, her voice sharp as glass. "You're both pathetic. One blinded by greed, the other by pride. And now you expect pity. Please." The three of them argued until guards dragged them apart, the chaos spilling through the cold walls of the room. Alex slumped in his chair, broken. Meanwhile, at David's mansion, the atmosphere was quiet and warm. Sylvia sat on the balcony overlooking the garden, a cup of tea in her hands. David joined her, carrying that calm strength she had grown to lean on. "You did it," he said softly. "You have your life back. No more chains, no more shame. From now on, you can be whoever you want to be." Her eyes glistened as she turned to him. "I couldn't have done it without you, David. You believed in me when no one else did. You gave me strength when I had none." He reached for her hand, and for a moment neither spoke. The silence was filled with unspoken emotions. They leaned closer, breaths mingling, the world fading around them. But just before their lips touched, Sylvia pulled back, her heart pounding. David smiled faintly, not pushing her. "In time," he whispered. Later that evening, they regrouped in the study. The fire crackled softly as David leaned back in his chair, studying her. "There's something I've been holding on to," he said, his voice gentle but steady. "A question I never asked. Months ago." Sylvia tilted her head, curiosity in her eyes. "What question?" David's gaze softened.
"Something I've wanted to tell you, and to hear from you." The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning, as she waited for him to continue. The firelight flickered softly across the study as David leaned forward, his eyes never leaving Sylvia's. The room was silent except for the gentle crackle of wood. "You asked me what question I wanted to say back then," he said, his voice low and steady. "It wasn't really a question, it was something I wanted to do." Sylvia tilted her head, her heart pounding. "And what was that?" David moved closer, his expression tender yet filled with years of unspoken longing. "I wanted to tell you that I have loved you for a very long time. It never mattered to me whether you were fat or slim, broken or strong. You were always you, and you were always enough." Sylvia's breath caught. Tears welled in her eyes as he continued. "When I came back from the States, all I wanted was to find you again. But by then you were married, and I thought it was too late. Still, fate has its way. It brought us back together, and I won't waste another chance. I will spend the rest of my life cherishing you if you'll let me." Sylvia looked down, her hands trembling. "David, She paused, her voice breaking. "You were always my only true friend. The one person who saw me when no one else did. I pulled back before because I'm scared. I've been hurt so badly, and I don't know if I can survive that again." David reached out gently, lifting her chin so their eyes met. "You'll never have to be afraid again. Not with me." In that moment, the walls she had built around her heart began to crumble. Slowly, she leaned forward, and he closed the distance. Their lips met in a passionate kiss, deep, reassuring, and filled with years of longing and promises unspoken. It wasn't just a kiss of love, but of healing, of new beginnings. When they pulled back, Sylvia rested her forehead against his, a small smile tugging at her lips. Maybe fate really did know what it was doing. David chuckled softly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Then let's trust it. Together." Outside, the night stretched quiet and calm, as though the world itself had given its blessing. For Sylvia, once mocked, broken, and discarded, it was the beginning of a new life, one filled with love, dignity, and the promise of happiness she had always deserved. Months later, the city buzzed with news of Alex Wilson's trial. The once celebrated CEO now faced years behind bars, his empire dismantled piece by piece. Linda, stripped of her fortune, kept out of sight. Nora had vanished into obscurity, her name whispered only in gossip. But far from the noise, Sylvia found peace. One warm afternoon, she and David walked hand in hand into a new gala, not as a woman mocked and shamed, but as a radiant guest, confident and free. Heads turned, but this time with admiration, not scorn. She wore a gown of deep emerald, the color of the ring once torn from her finger, a quiet reminder that she had reclaimed her dignity on her own terms. David guided her toward the front, where he was to give a speech as a keynote investor. Before stepping away, he kissed her hand softly. "You belong here, Sylvia. You always did." She smiled, her heart swelling. "No, David. We belong here." Later that evening, as laughter and music filled the hall, Sylvia glanced around the glittering room. For the first time, she felt no weight of insecurity, no echo of cruel words. Instead, she felt whole, cherished, and proud. The same society that once called her unworthy now saw her for what she had always been, strong, beautiful, and deserving of love. David returned to her side, sliding an arm around her waist. Their eyes met, and the world seemed to fade. "Ready for the next chapter?" he asked softly. Sylvia leaned against him, her smile tender but firm, more than ready. And as the lights shimmered above, she knew her story was no longer one of humiliation or revenge. It was one of rebirth, love, and triumph.